So if you had 1,000 shots and a million opportunities, does that really make you a good person? Because we're about to find out, because we're talking movies. We're talking Groundhog Day, starring Bill Murray, Andy McDowell, and Chris Elliott. Story by Danny Rubin, and screenplay and directed by the late, great Harold Ramis. Chris, I was at the Virgin Islands once. I met a girl. We ate lobster, drank pina coladas. At sunset, we made love like sea otters. That was a good day. Why couldn't I get that day over and over and over?
Come on! All the long distance lines are down? What about the satellites? Is it snowing in space? Don't you have some kind of line that you keep open for emergencies or for celebrities? I'm both. I'm a celebrity in an emergency. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? I feel like this is going to be an interesting show because I think Scott and I had different ideas of what we were supposed to be prepping. Because this show is going to be dropping on the 2nd, which is Groundhog Day, I was under the impression we were covering films that had the reoccurring day theme as a device, like Groundhog Day. From Scott's opening, it sounds like we're just talking about Groundhog Day. So let's see how this goes. We might end up in our own bit of feedback loop. So Scott, why don't you take us away?
So, if you had 1,000 shots and a million opportunities, does that really make you a good person? We're about to find out because we're talking movies. We're talking Happy Death Day, written by Scott Liddell and directed by Christopher Lane.
Oh, great. I hope Scott doesn't just keep doing that. That's very clever. Every time I hear, if you have a million shots, I want to just like break into Hamilton. You will not throw away my shot. I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry. Anyway, so Scott.
Yeah, so that's Lose Yourself by Eminem.
Yeah, but it's the founding fathers version. So
no, I was gonna say mine instead of one shot and one opportunity.
Oh, is that who that is? Oh, it's not from a Broadway musical. Okay.
One shot, one opportunity. He sees everything you ever wanted.
Yet again, we're on a different page. So
yeah, but
so we're talking The Edge of Tomorrow.
That is my next one too.
All right, let's get into the fucking movies.
All right. So yeah, like to be honest, I thought we were doing Groundhog Day for like 10 minutes and then doing the other ones that we watched. But sure, we can do them all. But then if you didn't think we're doing Groundhog Day, how did you have a fucking quote prepared for Groundhog Day?
Well, because I mean, Groundhog Day is probably definitely the most like recently famous. Maybe there's films that use that device beforehand.
I wouldn't say recently. It's
Yeah, but recent. I mean, like maybe there's some French film from 1950, and I don't want to make some like definitive statements. I don't want to be locking myself into some type of statement live or kind of live on air. But most people, when you say like, oh, it's sort of like Groundhog Day, they actually aren't referring to like the fucking groundhog coming out of the hole. They're talking about the Bill Murray, Harold Ramis film. So
I agree.
Anyway, so
yeah, I love that movie. Like this movie is fun. Like, and I don't think there isn't anybody who hasn't fucking watched this movie.
Okay, so should we go and see what it did at the box office and compare that to the billions of people on the planet, Scott? I thought we already taught you not to make those types of statements.
Yes, but now this movie came out in what,
93.
Yeah. So now with TV, video on demand, streaming, you don't think people have come across this movie?
Yeah, man.
I think this is cult, right? I think it could be considered a cult film where it's one that's loved and extremely popular.
Yeah, it's definitely popular. I don't know. I think it depends on what your definition of a cult film is. But yeah, I think it's sort of like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or fucking Uncle Buck, or any of those types of films. Ghostbusters, which I mean, Harold Ramis. Like, there's this period in the 80s and 90s where there's a whole bunch of these types of films. They're comedic. I mean, Stripes, you could go back earlier. that, again, also Harold Ramis, that have this sort of like, and I've really actually always had trouble kind of defining this, whether it's like Back to the Future or anything. It's like they were funny, they were comedies, but they were really, really well written. Like they didn't feel like, sometimes we get comedies nowadays and like, yeah, like they had films like Porky's and stuff like that were kind of just silly. But there was like a quality to the writing. And like, even though like, yes, they were like, you could watch them with your family, it was like, they were still films made for adults. Nobody was giving a flying fuck about like whether you could take your kids to the movie theater. You either took them and they shut the fuck up and watched the movie, or they didn't get to go to the movie theaters. That was it. Like the movies were not written for children. They were written for adults. And yet you could let your kid watch it because they weren't full of a lot of swearing, unlike this podcast.
uh, yeah. But that, like your statement just gives me more questions about your childhood. Like at which point was your mom just like, fuck it, I'm watching Three Men and Baby. You can either come or go.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
I'll actually give you an anecdote about that. So my mom took me to see Ghostbusters, right? And
Yeah, but
there's the
that's
scene.
not,
Hold
it's
on,
still
there's the
PG.
scene. Yeah, but I mean, there's just the scene where the ghost goes in Dan Aykroyd's pants, and so she like, her friend had told her about the movie, so she had to like put her hand over my eye so I didn't see the ghost blowy.
BJ's here. Get your BJ's. Get your red hot BJ's. Toothless and ready to go. Just $3. $3. Get your BJ's here.
Which, you know, is I believe a deleted scene, or it's more in depth.
Yeah, well, I mean, it gets more in depth, I think. Then you mean like they didn't show the whole scene in the film?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they got cut.
Anyway,
But,
so we're not talking about Ghostbusters. We're not talking about Back to the Future. We're talking about Groundhog Days and films that use that type of device. So
cool. So in terms of like just this, what would you call it? Like plot device?
sure,
thing?
yeah, absolutely. The reoccurring day is kind of the example I saw coming up online all the time.
Yeah. So which one out of the one, like which ones did you watch for
So
this?
I mean, I've seen like Run Lola Run and but like to like get ready for the show, I basically covered like Groundhog Day, Palm Springs, Edge of Tomorrow, aka Live Die Repeat, and Happy Death Day, which is awful, fucking awful, and it got a sequel. I mean, go Blumhouse. I mean, I didn't pull the numbers on some of this stuff, but I'm sure actually maybe our producer can come up with what was the budget on Happy Death Day and what was
Oh, it was
box office.
4 mil, and I think it made like 130 or
Yeah, that's like a
125.
Blumhouse special, right? Like they fucking they just print money. You know what I mean over
like
there?
Happy Death Day I enjoyed.
Of course
because-
you fucking did. Of course
But-
you did. Like I was upset with the movie in the first loop. I was like, this dialogue is shit. Is this chick really in university? What is she, 35? Like I was just like, I am not invested in this movie at all. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I just thought it was, you know, it was a good popcorn film in which, you know, it was just like, I haven't seen the sequel, but just watching it, I enjoyed it. But
I mean, I like the idea. I think that idea in the hands of a better, I mean, so the director, Christopher Landon, he wrote and directed like multiple different versions or sections of the paranormal franchise, just not one. I think like 2 onwards he was working on that. So he's like a Blumhouse director and writer. I just almost wish they had actually brought in, no offense, Christopher, like a better writer, like someone who's good at writing.
Oh, that's cold.
Because the writing.
well,
was
he
shit.
he didn't write the movie. He just directed it. Scott Liddell wrote it.
Yeah, well, and I mean the direction was like meh, like it was fine.
Yeah, they're like with the first one, like, and I like again, I haven't watched the second one, but with this one, there is one big, I think, like plot device kind of thing that I still haven't got through, and that was when it was the like her first kill, like in the tunnel.
Yeah,
With that, like whatever that musical box is.
yeah. How did the musical box keep getting behind her?
Yeah, and like what was the importance of that musical box?
Oh, it's almost like a Chekhov's gun. Like it's there, but it doesn't serve any purpose other than being creepy. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, a music box. Mine was like, so it's behind her, right? And I'm like, okay, so that's fine. Like if I'm a creepy dude, I can place it. But then she runs, and then it's like right behind her again. I'm like, but the killer's not really supernatural. Like she's stuck in a loop, but the killer's not supernatural. Anyway, whatever. Like you said, it's supposed to just be like you go to the movies and you make Blumhouse another $100 million, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I think I think like Palm Springs is the best like revamp that sticks in the same vein as Groundhog Day, right? Like someone who's stuck in some type of time loop that uses it all for bad shit at first, right? Like, you know, also tries, actually, except in this case, Andy Samberg is successful in sleeping with the girl multiple times. I like when they're like, she's like, have we done this before? He's like, yeah, lots. Where in Groundhog Day, we don't quite get to that. It's a more punched up, it's beautiful, and Palm Springs is beautifully shot. Like that kind of like saturated, almost candy, not quite neon landscape of I mean, it's not actually Palm Springs, but like the kind of the desert in California desert and stuff like that. It's great. Like it's a really fun movie. I think it went to Sundance, and at the time, so it's 2020 is when it came out. It was the highest film, like biggest amount of money paid for a film. And so I think they made it for something like 5 million. And with all guarantees and stuff, they got 20 million for it. That's fucking, imagine that. Like bang, boom, you take your fucking piece and you made 4 times whatever money you put in.
Yeah, that's Blumhouse. But
no, Blumhouse is like, I made a movie for fucking 5,000 and I made 500 million off of it. Like,
yeah, but the thing, well, I didn't mention it with Happy Death Day. The thing I liked was the ending where they actually reference Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and I think they actually reference, and do they reference Edge of Tomorrow as well in it?
No, that was the other that was the other recurring one that I didn't watch. It was but that one's on Prime too. But the 17-year-olds that are in the same loop. Now it's gonna fucking piss me off what the name of it is.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't watch it for this episode. But hold on, I have the name here. Give me 2 seconds.
So do you like? I mean, I think it's again. I think it's an interesting device, right? Like the idea of like if you have unlimited time, what would you do? If you have an unlimited lives, what would you do? I mean, and that's again like back to the idea around Happy Death Day. Like the idea that you wake up and you keep being fucking murdered is great. Like I love that that concept or that story concept. I just wish it would have been executed a bit better.
Yeah, I mean,
she was executed a lot.
Yeah, but I also like the concept as well. Like every time she came back, she was getting weaker and weaker. Like eventually she was gonna die from it, unless she's technically solved her murder.
Yeah,
but the one from that referenced both of them, it's called the Map of Tiny Perfect Things.
Oh, okay, yeah. I saw that one come up as well.
But like out of the ones that the one that I enjoyed the most was, and I'm gonna say it by the name it should have been called, which was Live, Die, Repeat. Like Edge of Tomorrow.
Have you seen the second one?
There isn't one.
Oh, I thought they were doing a second one, or there was a second one.
Well, no, I think it's in like post-production, but yeah, there isn't a second. Because the thing that I liked about this, and it's the reason why Doug Liman directed it, like signed on for it, and it's the first movie where like Tom Cruise is not like the superhero. Which like he sucked at everything, and it literally took him a million tries to like get good at all this shit.
I didn't realize this, that he's the director of Swingers. Like from Swingers, which is a super cool indie film, to like The Bourne Identity, Mr. Like he just started adding like action accolades to his resume, but like to start at something like Swingers, which is like a indie drama. And and then later in your career, you're directing like Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt in this like sci-fi fucking action extravaganza. Yeah. There's hope for all of us.
But well, I think his follow-up to Swingers Go kind of started going into like the action. It was really
I don't know.
a
To me, Go is in that vein of films that were direct Quentin Tarantino ripoffs. They're like, holy fuck, we're gonna use like non-linear formats and we're gonna like have multiple stories happening at the same time because Quentin Tarantino just did it with like Pulp Fiction. We're gonna go do all that, right? And I never liked Go because it was basically a knockoff. Although it has Sarah Polley, who's Canadian, who's also up for another Oscar for Women Talking. Congratulations, Sarah.
Yeah, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith was,
that ruined a marriage. It fucking
that did ruin a marriage. I didn't want to say it, but I'm like, but it got you Brangelina for a couple of years.
Brangelina. But yeah, Edge of Tomorrow is a fun movie. Again, it's like actiony, and the problem with that film actually was more in its marketing. It's actually a funnier film than they put in their trailers and stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I also think like with that one, like out of all the ones we watched, it's the only one that really explained how they got into the time loop too, right?
Yeah, because in all the other ones, it's just happening.
They're in it.
And in Palm Springs, Andy Samberg's character is already in the time loop. Like you just kind of come in with the female protagonist so that you can experience what he's already been doing multiple times, like thousands of times at that point, right?
Yeah. Which was her.
Hey now.
The director of Palm Springs, Max Barbaco. So I was looking at his filmography or whatever. This is his first feature. He's got a shit ton of shorts. But like, I'm always impressed with these people that's like, they finally get into their feature film. He is one of I think he's the story writer, and then they brought on a script writer to help punch up the dialogue and stuff. But that you can go and do a bunch of short films, then your first feature, boom, Sundance, boom, fucking payday. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
now is he
hope for all of us?
I was gonna say, is he like, does he have anything going on next?
Not that I could find. He might have something in post.
Well, that's not too. Yeah, but it is.
Listen, he's got
amazing.
he's got those millions that he's hanging out on. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
You're like, that's the Chris flying for a goal.
Ava Mac,
just a bunch of shirts.
Our motto is we sell out. Yeah, it was fun to go back and watch Groundhog Day. I mean, it's like it's super PG, right? But Bill Murray, it's so crazy too, because Groundhog Day is the film that basically ended the relationship between Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, who were like such good friends and had worked together on so many films. I think it may have been the first film that Harold had to direct Mr. Murray. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. I think they did.
Well, he was in technically Caddyshack, but Bill Murray's not the lead in Caddyshack, right? And Bill Murray is notorious for not being an easy person to work with. He's also known for like, you aren't 100% sure he's in your movie until the first day he's on the call sheet and he shows up. So I can only imagine that being conflict. And I mean, it's 1993. Bill Murray's pretty famous at this point, right? So, but luckily for both of them, when Harold was sick, Bill Murray rolled into the town that he knew he lived in, went to the local police station and was just like, hey, I'm Bill Murray and I'm looking for Harold Ramis. And they were like, holy fuck. And they took him to his house and they got to make their peace before Mr. Ramis passed away. So I think that's kind of a nice story. But yeah, man, it fucking like broke their relationship.
But I don't think it was ever like, you don't know what caused it, right?
No,
like,
I don't. I haven't been able to find any like facts, because I mean, I think only those two really know why.
Yeah, but then yeah, like you said, they reconciled close to the end, kind of thing.
I love you, dude. I love you, bro Montana. I love you, Holmes. I love you, Broseph Goebbels. I love you, muchacha. I love you.
We don't have as many days to make it right. We only have this one.
Unless you're stuck in a time loop.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're kind of just, off the cuff here. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Like,
I don't know. Like, what would you like to talk about? Like, how was your day?
Yeah, we're not doing that. Honestly, like I said, all four films are interesting. I did find Happy Death Day to be really hard to watch. Just because I thought it was a bit stupid. But the other three, Palm Springs,
But yeah,
Edge of
it's
Tomorrow,
not. Yeah, like that one's not in your. I'm actually surprised you watched it. To be honest, like I tried to do one of each genre. So I did comedy with Groundhog Day, action, sci-fi with Edge of Tomorrow. And then
look
I was
at
like,
you
okay,
putting the fucking work in today.
that,
Some of us came a little less prepared. I mean, that's what she said. The other one that I just briefly touched about is the like super old school indie film Run Lola Run, which it's not so much a time loop. It's basically like multiple events, the same event happening multiple times in different ways. So I guess you could call that a time loop, but it basically like you see basically a vignette, then you see a vignette, then you see a vignette, and like only by the end are the characters kind of successful in the mission they're trying to accomplish. This was actually it's made parody of in multiple things, most notably like The Simpsons. They did a parody of it. So it's a super interesting film. It is actually, I'm not maybe our producer while we're talking can come figure out when Run Lola Run came out. It feels like it was like late 80s, early 90s. So
it was in 98.
Oh wow, it's weird because it actually feels a bit, and maybe it's because of the indie like film stock style of shooting or whatever. Sorry, the indie style of shooting. It feels older than Groundhog Day, and Groundhog Day is actually 93. So
how could it feel older than that Groundhog Day when you're like, this was the first one that you can remember with that?
No,
thing?
but I mean aesthetically, like when
okay.
when you watch it, like it looks older. So according to our producer, going back to 1964, there are 8 films using the reoccurring day theme. 3 are remakes of others on the list. So there you go. So this is why I didn't want to make some fucking definitive statements, Scott. Some of us respect accuracy in our media presentation. So
yeah, other people prepare during the week. It could have been a quick Google search. Was Groundhog Day the first repeating day movie? But
yeah, man, that's all. That's kind of all I got. Like I said, Groundhog Day's fun. I rented it on Amazon. I couldn't find I could not find Groundhog Day for free on any of my streaming services. So I don't know if you have to rent it. I wish
I did get it for free. I used my Cineplex. I went on Cineplex store and used my Scene points to rent it for 24 hours. I used 350 points because it was only $2.99.
And you seen it here first.
That's what I had to do with Happy Death Day too.
And I think Palm Springs is available on a couple streaming platforms.
I think it's Amazon, right? It's an Amazon original.
It's an Amazon original. And Edge of Tomorrow was on Netflix. So
yes, I recommend watching that one again. Just
I might do that because I didn't end up watching the whole film. I just kind of touched base on it just to get some talking points.
But you know what was the best part of Edge of Tomorrow?
The edging.
Good old Bill Paxton.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Aliens and Predator 2 and Twister. And then didn't he die because of like complications of like plastic surgery or some shit? Like they put him under and then he just didn't.
Are you not the fucking guy who just said, I don't want to throw something out there without? So you're just going to throw how somebody died, apparently. But you're like, I do not want to say Groundhog.
And that's all for our show. No. Yeah, man. Bill Paxton, he's in a lot of stuff that I really like, as he was such a great character actor, right? So. Mm-hmm. I mean, the character he played basically was Bill Paxton. Like he was Bill Paxton in a movie was his character. So.
And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com. So if you live relive the same day over and over again, what would you do? Like, I'm assuming you would go straight on, like fucking
I would.
Andy Samberg.
I am not. Yeah, Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.